How's it going, guys? This is Sports from the Heartland. I'm Michael.
I am Eli.
And I'm Aaron.
Today is Tuesday, and that means we're talking about the AL Central. We're going to start off with the Tigers. Can they contend for the World Series?
I'm going to take this one. Yeah, I think they can. I think they're my top team in the EAL right now. You have the best pitcher in the American League, and Justin Verlander, possibly Major League Baseball. And you have a very good core of hitters.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Miguel Cabrera and Fielder, I think you have a very good set of hitters. Miguel just hits everything, and then once it hits Prince's gravitational field, he slows it down, so it's fine.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so they're my pick.
Yeah, I agree. But they need to stay consistent. They can't just do like they did last year. Just pull it out in the last little bit. Of course, they capitalized on that and they made that run to the World Series last year. But like you said, JV and Miguel need to be their leaders of their two different positions. JV needs to be a leader of the pitching rotation, and Miguel needs to be the leader of the lineup and the infield. But of course, you got Johnny Peralta and Brendan Bosch. Those two very good hitters. Prince Fielder, like you said. They have a good lineup. So they are the team to beat in this even just the entire American League. They're the team to beat.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk a little about the White Sox now. They just lost AJ Pradinsky and Kevin Youkilis. Do you think they'll still be able to come close to contending? And who do you think that should be the number one starter?
Okay. Well, I'm going to answer the number one starter question first. I like Sale. Sale's young.
Mm-hmm.
Sale's got a lot of pitches. Peavy's getting up there. He's a little inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still a decent number two starter. Not a great number two starter, but a decent one. And then I look at other than that, I look at their bats. I know they still got Adam Gunn, and they still got a couple guys, but honestly, there's not much that I love there. Adam Dunn, yeah, he's gonna give you a ton of home runs. The dude's gonna give you a ton of home runs. He's also gonna give you a ton of strikeouts. I love the guy. I absolutely love the guy. He's one of my favorite players. But you love the guy, but you look at it realistically. Dude hits home runs. Dude gets struck out. But you take the good with the bad with Adam Dunn. So for me, I look at it and I say, they're gonna be okay. I don't think they're gonna even come close to winning this division.
I'm going to kind of compare and contrast what you just said. As far as the starting, I agree. Chris Sale, a great first year starting. Of course, he was a former reliever. Now a couple years doing that. Now he's his first year full starter. Cy Young worthy candidate. He didn't win the Cy Young, but he was in that conversation, so he should be number one. Agreed. Jake Peavy needs to be more consistent. When he started off the year, he was the number one, but then he got cold and he couldn't capitalize, and he actually went under 500 this last year. So he needs to get back. Another pitcher of theirs is John Danks. John Danks needs to be what he used to be, not like the last couple of years. He needs to stay healthy and pitch the way he's been. Once he's on, he is on. He is the number one starter. But of course, these three are fighting for the number one. But I don't think John Danks is necessarily in this conversation solely because he can't stay healthy and he can't stay consistent. Now, as far as they're losing AJ and Kevin Youkilis, Kevin was only there for 2/3 of the season. He still did an amazing job. He's still one of the best third basemen so far. And, you are losing AJ Pradinsky, who did just come out of his, career year, basically, highest he's ever hit in home runs and RBIs. And very good defensively, but you got Viciedo, you got Alex Rios, Adam Dunn, Paul Konerko, all these guys. Paulie, he's the veteran of this team. He knows how to win. He's led this team to a World Series in 2004. So take his veteran hitting and then put it with all these other younger guys. You got Gordon Beckham, who's starting to come in as a second baseman for this team, he's been bouncing around between the infield, and he's finally come comfortable in this second baseman spot. And you still got Alexis Ramirez, who's actually a pretty decent power shortstop. He's still going to hit you about 15 home runs, which is more than you could say for most shortstops. So they still have bats. Are they probably going to contend for at least the division? Probably not. Now I do like the White Sox, but the Tigers are probably going to be that number one in this division. So yeah.
All right, moving on to the Twins. Can Mauer continue to start as many games as he did last year? And can the Twins put out a decent pitching staff that doesn't look like it would lose to most AAA teams?
I think Mauer can do it. Mauer has shown that he is a very consistent player. He's a very good player. He's a very good backstop. He's a Gold Glover. He's not necessarily a power guy per se because he's going to hit between 8 and 10 home runs a year, but he's still going to drive in the runs. He's going to have a high. He's going to be the tops in average, so he's going to drive in the runs. He added 85 runs in last year, 319 average. So, and he's not. If you don't want him as your backstop, you still got a couple other guys. You can put him as your DH. You can put him at first base because he's actually a pretty darn good first baseman. So he did a lot. He did about 30 games at first base this last season, pretty sure, somewhere around that. So you got that. As far as their pitching, I mean, you need to pick up better people. You picked up Kevin Correa, who is number 3, arguably, for a normal team, and he's going to be probably the number 1 for this team.
Yeah.
You need to do better. You got guys like Scott Diamond. I don't know what you're thinking, keeping him around, and Liam Hendricks. I mean, yeah, he's young, but you need to teach him how to pitch to this league.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have to do better than Kevin Correa and these guys. So as far as beating AAA teams, they could probably match up against that, but not against major league teams. So
for me the real question here is Mauer. I do worry about Mauer coming off. I mean, he was healthy last year, but last year was the first year he's really been healthy in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I worry about how 147 games takes a toll on your body.
Especially the catcher.
Yeah, especially the catcher. You didn't play 15 games. There were 15 games he wasn't in. That's ridiculous. It's incredible, but it's ridiculous. That shows you how much he was asked to carry this team.
Mm-hmm.
And how much he was asked to carry a failing team. That takes a toll, and I wonder how that affects his body. I do think he can start most games,
mm-hmm.
but I don't think he's going to start 147.
No.
I think he's more at the 120 mark now.
100, 125.
Yeah.
130 is kind of stretching it.
Yeah. So. I think you're right. Somewhere 120, 25. But as far as the pitching staff, you gotta get somebody. It's like you said, you got a third guy starting first, and then, I mean, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's really awful. There's not a lot of other ways to put it except for that it's not Colorado Rockies. So, but that's really the only thing I can say about that. That they're just bad. They need to find somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
Free agency is your friend.
All right. Well, moving on to the Indians. Can Drew Stubbs fit in on right field, and will they survive the second half this year?
You want to take this one first?
Sure. No. Drew Stubbs, he's not the number 1 prospect that he was. He was when he first started, but he's declined actually.
Mm-hmm.
He's gotten worse and worse every year, and it's just how are you supposed to be this number 1 and you get worse?
Mm-hmm.
Especially being a young player that he is. As a young player, you should be getting better.
Yeah.
I mean, your defense was very good defense as center field. Now he's moving over to right field. Those are 2 different positions. For people who don't know baseball, they're probably like, oh, it's just the outfield. No. You see the ball differently in each position. You see the ball differently when you're at center field. You see the ball differently at right field. That's why these are 2 different positions. So, I mean, he's going to steal bases, but he has to get on base. So he has to get on base because he can steal about 45 backs, if that.
Yeah.
But, and as far as them being a second half team, I mean, you picked up Michael Bourne and Nick Swisher. They can add, but as far as continuing down the stretch, I highly doubt it. So.
Yeah, I look at their additions. Michael Bourne is I love that addition. Then I look at Swisher, who was pretty bad down the stretch with the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't very good. He's definitely a first half guy, and quite frankly, what you need right now is second half guys. I do like the addition of Swisher, but it's not my favorite move that they did. Definitely Michael Bourne steals it, but for me, you putting Drew Stubbs in right field, I don't understand that. You went and got this guy to be your center fielder, and then you went and got Michael Bourne.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind getting Michael Bourne. I think it's a great move. But I think if you're going to go get Michael Bourne, you ask him, can Michael Bourne play left or right?
Mm-hmm.
Michael Bourne makes up for the fact that he can bat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not a homer guy, but he's a contact guy.
Yeah, he's a contact guy. And as we all know, Stubbs ain't. Stubbs is terrible. You take what makes Stubbs actually kind of good, and you now take that away from him, was the fact that he could go in either direction in center field.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the speed to do it. He made things look easy that weren't.
Yeah.
But I look at it and I say, you're not going to contend at this point. I think they're going to be a really good first half team, but I think they're going to steal some stuff, and then I think they're going to fall off.
Yeah.
I think they're going to fall off probably about 2/3 of the way in the season.
Agreed.
All right. Moving on to the Royals. They had a great bullpen. But the question is, can they put up a starting rotation that can make that bullpen shine?
I don't think so. I don't think they can. I think their bullpen is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Their bullpen is one of the best in the league. I know they picked up some guys that are pretty good as starters. The one that gets me is James Shields. I do love that addition. You told me about that. You told me about that earlier. But really, that's outside of James Shields. What do you really have? So I wonder in the end, does it all come crashing down for James Shields, because he's never been a number one guy. That was never his spot in Tampa Bay. That was always Price. So I do wonder how that affects him.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, the guy I kind of look at for this starting rotation is Mendoza. He needs to lead this team. He's been with this team longer than these other guys. He's also been in for years, but he just now has started 20-something games now, and you need more of that. But like James Shields being picked up, great addition to this. Hopefully, it's a great building stone for this rotation.
Yeah.
And then you also got a couple guys, Danny Duffy, who, if he's healthy, he's a pretty good starter. He's not going to be your 3 or 4, or excuse me, 3 or 2 or 1. He's going to be your 4th or 5th starter. Yeah. And then another guy is Wade Davis. Is he going to be a starter, or is he going to be a reliever? I think he should be a starter, at least a number 3 or number 4 guy, because he's going to at least give you 25 to 29 to 30 games even at starting. So hopefully you can keep him going. He's a pretty good key, because I mean, you got bats. This team has bats. They just need starting pitching. So.
All right. Well, that's it for today's segment. Tune in tomorrow where we talk about the AL West.
Stay blessed.